Welcome to The Jewish Lens, a podcast to discuss anything and everything from a Jewish perspective. Now, please help me welcome the man who controls the media, your host, Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen, and today I'd like to welcome a dynamic stand-up comedian, actress, and filmmaker. She's a longtime fixture on the LA comedy scene, performing at such places as The Comedy Store and The Laugh Factory, where she hosted her own show and opened for legends like Tim Allen. She's currently touring as part of the duo The Jew and the Sue with J.R. Redwater. Please help me welcome Dinah Leffert. Dinah, thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, I like to always start. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but I always like to start by going back with people. So I wanted to ask first, where did you grow up, and what was your family life like, in particular with regard to Judaism?
Great. So originally I'm from New Mexico. My family's not from there. My parents met during the civil rights. They were civil rights, very significant, activists during the civil rights. My mom actually was a very rare paid staff member for Martin Luther King, and my dad was affiliated with Black Panthers, and they were radicals. And they had my two sisters in San Francisco, and then they...
Your mom was with King and your dad was with the Black Panthers?
Exactly. And my mom was actually on the way she was part of the voter registration party in Birmingham, Alabama. So she had sublet her apartment to my dad, who was just falling in love with my mom through her rifling through her records and her stuff, and just this chick is cool. So anyway, they ended up moving to New Mexico to live off the fat of the land, as you do when you're done, fighting for civil rights. And they had my brother in Corrales, New Mexico, and then they moved to Albuquerque, and they had me. Actually, a very interesting birth. My dad actually delivered me on our living room rug. In a little stucco house on Quiet Lane in the South Valley of New Mexico. Mm-hmm.
So I want to get, because some of the things I just love that I've been reading. All right, so you've shared stories about growing up Jewish in a Catholic school setting. So when I was in high school, I was one of only a handful of Jews in my high school. It was nothing like what you had. So can you tell me about that, and what was life like for you? Oh,
yeah. So New Mexico, we were part of, I had a traditional Hebrew naming ceremony at Beth Israel. And then my parents moved over to another shul, or it's actually a Temple Albert, which was just in the news recently for being vandalized, a really bad vandalized, $40,000 worth of damage. Some kid was radicalized. So that just was in the news, interestingly enough, but, or sadly, I should say. But growing up Jewish there, I knew there was something different about my parents' Jewish friends. There were so few Jews there at the time that our Jewish friends, we actually called them our cousins or our uncles and our aunts. And we still call them our cousins and our uncles and our aunts, and they're not exactly directly related to us. But that's how tight.
The Jewish way in general.
Yeah, that's how exactly. But it was just I remember thinking those people are closer to us than those people. And then I had the distinction, it's because they're Jewish. It was like a DNA thing for me. I had this distinction Jewish before I understood what Jewish was, because based on a different type of closeness with those friends. And but there's something funny to me about growing up Jewish in New Mexico before I get to the having to go to a Catholic school, which was actually so traumatizing. I think that's why I became a comedian. But just one quick little story is my mother would try very hard to keep kosher, and my father would try very hard to break the kosher. He was doing all kinds of stuff. So my mom, there were no mikvahs for dishes and things like that. So the rabbi told her you could bury your pots and pans in the back. So she would bury our pots and pans in the backyard. And this one time it snowed. She buried all the pots and pans, and then it snowed, and then she couldn't find where they were. Like it was just like a white sheet. I remember her trying to tell us to like look for the pots and pans. Like there's still pots and pans in that backyard, buried in that backyard.
Were you observant at all? Did you participate in holidays or big holidays and stuff?
Yes, we participated in the big holidays. I'm the youngest, so my sisters and my brother remember more of a having a Jewish like schooling, like Hebrew school, and they had more of a Hebrew education. But I still remember like us all, like those were some of the best memories of my childhood, was just like my dad lighting the menorah for Hanukkah, or like my mom lighting Shabbat candles. And so I very much knew that we were Jewish because we were othered in a lot of ways in Albuquerque, because it's a Catholic state. New Mexico is a Catholic state. And so I was going to public school originally, but there was a lot of it was dangerous, I guess. There's things happening. So my mom was like, let's put her in a private school. But there weren't any like private like Hebrew schools when I was growing up around our area. So they put us at St. Mary's Catholic School. And my sisters just told me like, hey, just don't tell anybody you're Jewish. Just tell them you're not baptized. So the teachers were constantly like, when are you going to get baptized? You know, your parents don't love you if you're not baptized. You're going to go to hell. And so it was just like weird. And then my parents were getting divorced around that time when I was at the Catholic school. So neither parent was coming to my school. It was just like, it was bizarre. It was really Catholic school was only for third grade, but it was like enough to change to like disturb me.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Now, going to Catholic school, did kids anyone find out you were Jewish? I mean, were you treated differently if they found out?
I didn't try to find out. Like I didn't tell them.
Right.
And so if you have brown hair and brown eyes like me, they just assume you're Hispanic or you're another Mexican kid. Right. So I just didn't say anything. But like my best friend knew that we were Jewish. Mm-hmm. And she was just recently telling me how she remembers my mom being upset because like our neighbors were not nice to her because she was Jewish.
Oh.
So it was a thing. And now there's a lot more Jews there now. And actually I found out at the Centennial that it was Sephardic Jews that actually formed and founded the state of New Mexico. Like they were there before America was America, because they had fled the Inquisition. Right. So if you go to like Santa Fe or you go to any of these beautiful cathedrals that are there that are ancient, like tourists go there, there's Hebrew lettering over, they actually built the cathedrals. They were considered crypto Jews. So they were outwardly Catholic and they were hiding their Judaism inside. So there's Hebrew letters if you go to the cathedral in Santa Fe.
I had no idea about that. I'm going to have to go search that up.
Yeah.
Your upbringing sounds a little bit like mine in some things. I mean, the kosher, like we did keep a kosher house, but my dad whenever we went out, would order shrimp, could order steak, could whatever it was on the outside.
Yeah.
But I mean, this whole thing sounds like just ripe for like humor. Did like this whole situation spark that in you at all? Like the being like I'm the Jewish kid in the Catholic school.
I mean, it did later. That's why like I have jokes about it. Now it did for sure. It did later, but at the time, you just want to be like everybody else.
Right.
Like on Fridays, like all the other kids could like come up and do like the Holy Communion and get the little Christ Crunch biscuit. And they're like, not the Jew. You just sit in the pew, do whatever Jews do. Look on the floor for loose change, put it in the basket. Jokes. I joke. So like that was another thing that my best friend used to do is we used to go to her house after school and she would smash Wonder Bread into little circles and put crosses on them. And she would pretend to be the priest with a little bit of grape juice. And she was like, she would just give me an opportunity to come and get the communion, just like all the other kids. And I would just come up and get it each time. Like, it was a weird thing to do, but it was like growing up in New Mexico, feeling like a Jewish kid. And I remember being like obsessed with Catholicism for a while. Like, there's something bad about being Jewish. You have to hide it. And Catholicism comes with all these accoutrements, like all these candles. I remember I got all these candles, like the like Virgin of Guadalupe and like all like Jesus and stuff. And my sister was like, "Oh my God, Dinah, we're Jewish. You can't have those." And so, so I kind of went through this phase of having zero Jewish pride growing up, and then to like actually moving to LA and seeing for the first time really loud and proud Jewish people wearing their Magen Davids. And at first I was even kind of like, are you sure you should be wearing that in public? Are you sure? Like, are you sure you're safe to do that? Like, it was always like a fear, I guess. It was either built into me or also like a cellular memory, because like we're Hungarian, Romanian Jews, and excuse me. And so my grandparents were actually murdered in the Holocaust, along with other, like our entire Hungarian family that didn't leave. And they really didn't leave because they were, in a lot of ways, they were Hungarian nationalists even before they were Jews. Like, they were Jewish, but they really didn't think their country was going to turn on them like that. So they stayed to their peril. And so now I think a lot of what my activism is combined of being a child of activists, civil rights activists, and a child of great-grandchild of the Holocaust, and putting those two things together. Like, I've always been that person to stick up for everybody else, and I marched with my friends for Black Lives Matter. I was at Standing Rock with J.R. Redwater, being water protectors for the No Dapple movement. And when this happened, I realized, like, if I don't stick up and stand up for the Jewish people, I'm a coward and a hypocrite. So I really just had like a moment of evaluating and just taking a stand.
Well, all right. So let me ask. I was going to ask you something else, but now since you brought that up, I'll come back to what I was going to ask you now. Here's one of the things. Now, you mentioned you're going to standing up for all the others. How is it now with others standing up for you?
I've literally had the door shut in my face from people that, literally a girl that asked me to put my white body on the line, on the front lines with her for Black Lives Matter, tell me to my face that she's going to, I'm going to fuck with these people, meaning the Free Palestine people. And I was like, I tried to explain to her, I go, listen, you might regret this. It's a really dangerous hate movement. And she just was not interested in anything. She just started telling me how, all the whole narrative against Israel. And she had anything I said to her was just falling on deaf ears. And we haven't been friends since. I was also really good friends with two different Palestinian comedians, and even one that always actually identified as Lebanese, and then all of a sudden he was identifying as Palestinian. And so I've lost friendships. I've lost, just people. I was like a Bernie bro. I used to be a Bernie bro, like super about like Bernie Sanders. And so all those people that I was going to like actually doing even comedy shows of like raising money for him. I want every cent back, Bernie. I just really woke up to that I was doing identity politics. I woke up to the fact that the Democratic Socialists of America are also a very dangerous hate movement, and that I had been supporting them and even giving money and raising money for them. And now I feel like politically homeless in a way, but I'm more leaning towards like conservatives, because they're the only ones that actually have, for the most part, the like backs of their standing up. Yeah. So there's one friend, I can name one friend, Rosie Tran. She's she's Vietnamese, so she understands,
Your
like,
shows with a lot.
she went through like Asian hate, and she understands what that's like. So she also, and she really has an open mind, and she's super smart, and she was just like, yeah, I'm not buying all this. And so she's been like the one friend that's actually really supported me through all of this. But I lost a lot of friends, a lot of followers, and then I gained a lot of family from all the Jewish diaspora from around the world, and that's been the best.
I will say same. So I have very similar experiences there as well. And you are not alone, because I've interviewed so many people here who pretty much echoed what you said. That's why I was very curious that I stood up for this, I stood up for that, and when it came time for me, everyone's gone. So
yeah, and that's like a natural response, and like to me that's normal. But what's not normal to me are the Jewish people who are still standing up for everyone else,
yeah,
except the Jewish people. And it's like they never had that moment. They never had that come to Moses moment.
Yeah, we'll talk about more about them. A lot of the Azza Jews that So, all right. So let's go back to you. We'll come back to this. Let me go back to you. Your upbringing. So I don't know. Was there anyone in your family, or like family or teachers, who sparked your love of comedy? Where did that come from? And who were like some of the people that you liked as a child, like influenced you?
My dad is one of the funniest people, or at least he used to be one of the funniest people. And my brother was hilarious. I actually remember my first baby memory. My first thought ever, like I had no identity. I was like sitting in my crib, and I could see and hear my brother like hamming it up in the kitchen, and everybody was laughing at him. So being funny was really prized in my family. So I remember my little baby brain was like, oh, I gotta be like that. And so I was just trying to be like my brother, and he's hilarious. But he got very serious in his career and everything. So actually I feel like my brother's way funnier than I am, but I'm the little kid that was like, oh no, you stick with comedy.
But were you a funny kid too? I mean, were like class clown or anything like that?
Yeah, I was always funny. It's funny because like I didn't start doing stand-up comedy until I was 30, because
Really?
it was a blind spot to me. I was actually in drama and acting, and I've been in SAG since 1998, SAG-AFTRA, when they merged. And I was trying to be like, have a respectable acting career. And I was always like funny on set for different things that I did. And even in high school, I remember my friends being like, Dinah, you're doing stand-up. That's stand-up. So like, I guess like for somebody famous that I was influenced to me was Eddie Murphy. I think me and my brother watched Eddie Murphy Delirious and Raw like countless times. And of course, the godfather of comedy, Richard Pryor. And then Margaret Cho was somebody that was an influence to me when I was just starting to actually take it on and do stand-up. Because I really liked how she would have social commentaries, but she'd have punchlines. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to talk about real things that matter, that everyone cares about, but like have a punchline for it.
Okay, I do have to ask about this, I guess deviating slightly from comedy. I read all these things that you have a connection to Tupac.
Yes. Yeah, I know it's wild. It's wild. But so I went to high school with Tupac Shakur. He was actually in Baltimore at a performance art school, and he moved to the Bay Area, San Francisco. He actually moved to Marin City, which are the projects. And the kids that lived in Marin City, which is across from Sausalito, they were bused into Mill Valley to my high school, Tamalpais High School in Mill Valley. I was living in, at that time, Stinson Beach and Bolinas, which is West Marin. So I was hitchhiking to school because I would sleep in and miss the one bus that would take us to school. So I was hitchhiking there. He was getting bussed in, and somehow along the way, like, we started talking about how his parents were Black Panthers, and my dad was affiliated with them during civil rights. So, like the breakfast program, and he knew those people. So he realized like I'm an ally. And also I had a boyfriend that he respected. So we just always had this platonic friendship, and he would come to me for advice and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm quoted in two different, I'm the godmother of hip hop. Cause I helped him get a girlfriend. One of my very best friends in school, Cassie Manez, she dated him. He took her to the junior prom. I tried to make him stay in school when he got signed with, Digital Underground. I was like, when all this is over, you're going to need your diploma. And he was like, no. He goes, I'm not ever coming back to this school. I was like, okay. So, I have a whole story about Tupac. I have many interactions with him. We were very good friends. And then after his Double album came out, I kind of lost contact with him. But like for me, when he got shot the second time, when he actually died, that for me is a very significant moment, because it was the opening night of a play that I was in San Francisco, and the artistic director was like, hey, Dinah, you have a phone call in the office. And like, I never got phone calls. Nobody got phone calls like to be called into the office. So I was like, it must be an emergency. I was worried. And then it was my best friend, and she was like, hey, I need to tell you, like, Tupac was shot. This is when he was shot in Vegas. And I know, like, he was your friend. So, like, I'll never forget that moment, because it's like when I was a kid and I would hear adults say, like, I know exactly where I was when Kennedy got shot. Like, that was my moment of, like, that was when Tupac got shot. And for me, it wasn't like, he was a famous guy, but for me, he was a friend. So it was it was the death of a friend.
Oh, sure, of course. I just find, it's definitely wild that you have this connection to him. I mean, that was one of the things that like just stuck out for me when I was, doing research on you. It was so. When did you first move to LA anyway? What prompted that?
So I was a member of the Actors Theater of San Francisco, and I was doing a play. I was Honey in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And I got very good reviews, and I got just a lot of accolades, and just a lot of people saying you're beautiful, you're young, you're talented, you should go to LA. And actually my acting teacher was like, be a respectable actress and go to New York and be a real actress. But my sister had gone to film school in Spain, and she had ended up in Los Angeles in a position to help me at William Morris Agency. And so she said, you need to get down here. You can always go to New York later, but while you're young, you should be here and you should try. So I got hip pocketed at William Morris when I first got down here, and that kind of started my acting career, which morphed into a stand-up career.
Did you have a preference? Just curious.
I love both. Like I didn't stop being an actor. I still audition for stuff. It's just that I missed the love of, like, in theater, it's so exciting. Like, people come out and it's live, and nobody loves theater in LA. So I was looking for like that same feeling of excitement of the live performance where people will actually come. And so many people were just, two of my best friends that don't even know each other were like, Dinah, you're a stand-up comedian. Like, we even went to a stand-up comedy show. Craig Robinson was playing the piano. He's hilarious. And it was the end of the show, and he's like, is anybody not a comedian that's funny in the audience that wants to come up here and like do a joke? And my best friend Anna pulls me up, and she's like, she is, and she like shoved me onto the stage. And then me and Craig Robinson sang Ebony and Ivory and just messed around. And so that was kind of like a moment that I had of before I became a comic. And then
Was that the first time ever on stage for you, like that, doing something like that?
In comedy, yeah, that was the first time.
Okay.
So then I realized maybe like a year after that, a friend of mine who we were both in the same acting class together started doing a comedy class with another friend of mine, and I kind of got jealous because that friend of mine was telling me, you're funny, you should be in my class. And it took my friend to go like basically take my spot for me to feel like, oh no, I need to be there too. So jealousy is a roadmap. It tells you what you really want. So I followed that, and then that comedy teacher actually had a show at the Comedy Store that I was a part of for 10 years developing. I developed at the Comedy Store for over 10 years.
How did you first get into that? I mean, that was just about to ask about the Comedy Store. How did you first start performing there?
So when I took my, his name's Adam Barnhart, he would do these classes where it's like a 6-week class where you develop your voice, you develop your material, and then at the end of those 6 weeks, you perform at the Comedy Store up in the belly room. Like there's the
So
two.
it's automatic. You do the class and then you perform there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my first time performing at the Comedy Store, my first time performing ever was at the Comedy Store in the belly room.
I'm nervous for you.
Yeah, it's actually not recommended. Like you shouldn't start comedy when you're in LA, because this is where the best of the best come to, perform and compete. But if you're just like new, but the thing was, I was funny right out of the gate, and I had stage presence, because stage presence comes from all that acting experience that I had, all those plays that I had under my belt. And so people thought I was a headliner when I was only 6 months into comedy. I actually won a contest for 2 years and under. I won first place. I won like $500 and a little trophy, funniest comedy in LA. And so that encouraged me to just keep going.
That's fantastic that you started out at the comedy. That was your first real gigs with the Comedy Store. So,
yeah, the Comedy Store is actually known for comics. It's not just the world famous Comedy Store.
Right.
It's actually known as Clown College.
Okay.
So if you don't develop at the Comedy Store, you don't have to. Lots of people don't, but there's something I should have my name on the wall at some point, because I'm alumni.
Well, so you had something that rated as the best weekly show?
Yeah, so that friend, Adam Barnhart, that I was telling you about, he had a write-up in LA Weekly that basically was the big quote of best running show in LA. So I was always part of that show. I would be the door girl, collecting money, and then I would get up on stage at the end. I earned my spot by working for the show. So at the end, I would be you might remember me from the door where I took your money. So yeah, you gotta that's what I love about comedy, actually, is it's not, there's no real nepotism in it. It's you have to earn it. It has to be your talent. Yeah.
I've had another couple of other comedians, Leah Foster and Danny Cohen. I don't know if you know either one of them, but they were talking about some of those things with that. So, any key mentors, any comics that say, hey, you could hold you aside and start giving you advice or tips there? Yes.
When you're at the Comedy Store, there's a lot of people, a lot of comedians, and even really famous comedians, and you end up on shows with them. And that's what's wonderful about comedians. It seems like we're up there alone, but we're really part of a body of comedians, and they're actually really cool. There's a lot of camaraderie. I remember different comedians just giving me all kinds of advice. Leslie Jones was actually my mentor for,
really?
She when you're at the Comedy Store developing, they actually have a more developed comedian become a mentor to you. So she said she would mentor me, and that lasted for a period of time. And then she ended up getting on SNL. Mm-hmm. So Leslie Jones was my official mentor, but there was other Bill It's not Bill Hicks. He was already dead before I got there. But I'm messing with my names right now. Bill, the redhead. I'm so bad at names right now.
Bill Barr?
Huh?
Barr?
Yes. I just remember like people, I know I've also had jokes stolen from me from bigger comedians.
Wow.
Like literally seeing them take my joke and put it on national TV, and there was literally nothing I could say or do.
Wow. Oh, that sucks.
Because it's just going to look like I'm either lying or, I don't know. It's just like, I just remember one of the advice was, you know, like if that happens to you, you just got to move on. That means like, it's like thievery is like flattery or whatever. Like you just have to move on and keep creating. And also don't always put your best material up when you're in a development room. Sometimes you got to wait till you put it where it's going to be taped so nobody can steal it.
Yeah. Well, so how common is it? Because I've seen obviously I've seen a lot of comedians talk about just that. I mean, I've seen, they have the videos of comedians confronting other comedians for doing it. So how common is that?
It's very common. Sometimes great minds think alike.
Okay.
Sometimes that happens. Like there is something to that where somebody could have something very similar. I've seen that happen, but for the most part, sometimes it's the person's subconscious hearing it, forgetting that they heard it, and then they think that they made it up. Mm-hmm. But they actually heard it, so it was in their subconscious, and then they pulled it out and wrote it down and maybe made it a little bit different, but it's still really like they were stealing.
So I guess we can't name who stole your joke. This is usually the time that I usually say like rhymes with, but so were there any comedians that were not so nice to you, like get away from me, or like?
So yes, that happens too. It can be a very toxic environment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really want to name names, but there's.
No, you don't have to name names. I'm just curious if it happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's some very toxic people that you don't want to like mess with. Also, like, I don't know if you remember, like the Me Too I'm sure you do. The Me Too movement. Mm-hmm. It was sad because there was a lot of girls, including myself, that had things happen to them. Oh, God. And the nature of like especially the Comedy Store was like, yeah, you could drag somebody, but you're going to ruin your own career at the same time. So there's a lot that never got said in comedy that should have been said, but it's still such a boys club, and it was really going to be at the risk of just being dragged yourself. Mm-hmm. So it can be pretty dark. Like I don't even really go back there because there's like so many weird incidents and people that I just like avoid that place now. So yeah, it sucks, but it's like I knew what I was getting into when I got into it. I knew like there was going to be, but I didn't know it was going to be like that, Well,
let's talk about some positive things. So here, you've opened for like big name like Tim Allen. You shared bills with like people like Pablo Francisco, Pauly Shore, Jimmy J.J. Walker. So what are some of the more memorable moments from those experiences?
Well, for sure, Tim Allen gave me a big break. I opened for him. I think I was his opener for about a year, where he, anytime he was at the Comedy Store, and it was the first time I was actually getting like a nice paycheck from there. Okay. I was actually getting paid, and I got to open for Tim Allen. Mm-hmm. But he's got like 15 different openers, so it just kind of was like I got to do it while it lasted, kind of a thing. And at the Comedy Store, I got to do a lot of incredible shows, and they even gave me my own show. It was the Dinah Leffert show, but it was on Monday nights, and it was my job to I had to fill the room on a Monday night. So that also didn't last so long. It's really hard to get in there, and it's really hard to stay. So just trying to get people out on a Monday night and fill the room was really difficult.
You're responsible for filling the room for yourself? That's really it?
Yeah, like comedy, what people don't realize is like when you're a comedian, you're the director, the writer, the producer, the performer, and you're the promoter. So like I promoted and produced a lot of different shows just because I wanted to control the environment and have a nice environment, especially for female comedians. So I produced a lot of my own shows so I could create a great vibe. And so I was getting opportunities, but they came with big challenges. Like you have to prove yourself, you have to, and I would do it, but it was just like taking so much out of it to the point where I was like, I think I want to stop producing and just be the talent. I just want to go perform. So at a certain point I stopped doing that. Yeah. Right. But actually in 2021, I don't remember if, and this is not that positive, but it's a significant point in my career, which is that when Kanye West started popping up with all the antisemitism, I was producing the Dinah Leffert show at a venue in Silver Lake. And I remember a comedian got up just before me. I was supposed to perform after him. And he was saying, does anybody even support Kanye West anymore after this? And literally the audience was like clapping and whooping it up and saying, yeah, we support him. He's speaking truth to power. And I was just like mortified. And it was like, again, it's my own show. So I'm thinking I did this so I could speak up. Yeah. So anyway, I was like, okay, I was panicking. I'm like, I have to go make these people laugh now. So I got up and I started to like do some of my jokes. And then I just had this moment where I just stopped and I said, like I'm trying to be funny, but I still can't get over I'm still recovering from the moment before where you guys all supported Kanye West. You guys realize you're in a show run by a Jewish woman whose also parents were civil rights activists. I said, I don't know if you guys know who Jewish people are, but we stand with all marginalized communities. We're in the fight with you guys. But when our house is on fire, nobody stands with us. Yeah. And I said, you know what? This show is over. It's over. You guys can stay here, but the show's over. And I stopped my own show and I never went back. And I wrote this post about how like, I'm going to quit comedy because it wasn't the first time. It was just like the clincher where I was going show after show after show where it was free Palestine, anti-Jewish, like Jews were the punchline. I literally went to one show where it was like, well, I hate Jews because and it was just like all this anti-Semitism. And so it finally reached my own show and I was just like, I don't feel safe in any of these rooms. I think I'm going to quit. So I wrote this whole post. And then I inadvertently got the attention of a journalist from the Jewish Telegraph Agency who ended up interviewing me. And I'm in this article about like Jewish pop culture during the rise of anti-Semitism. And that's when I realized like I shouldn't quit comedy, but I should start doing more Jewish jokes, more Jewish humor, and pivot and do more Jewish audiences because the Jewish people need to laugh. So I just started to develop my voice there. I ended up getting a show in Miami for the Rosh Ha show for Rosh Hashanah. And so I started just to pivot, and that's kind of what I'm still doing. I'm still doing shows that are just like everybody's included, but really just trying to do more shows for Jewish people and be more loud and proud.
No, and it's very much appreciated. I'll come back to what I was going to ask you. Let's talk about this for a little bit then, because I've looked at your social media. I told you this beforehand, and you have a strong voice. You've been outspoken, and it's like I said, very much appreciated. So, but your activism, I see, has intersected with your comedy career because I looked at like I said, I read your posts, I read the comments. Whenever I post anything Jewish related, doesn't have to be about Israel at all, I will get the worst idiot trolls. And I saw the same thing on your social media, on your comments. So how has that affected you personally now, just seeing, like, you doesn't matter what you put down, I've seen the trolls make comments on your posts.
Yeah, so first of all, as a comedian, I do have a thick skin. However, like you said, I started noticing, it was actually in May of 2021. I remember specifically when it started was when Hamas first launched rockets into Israel in May of 2021. And that's when the online propaganda machine war was really like an information war, really started heavily. And it was just like a Hanukkah post. And it was just like free Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine. And I started speaking on Clubhouse and meeting all these other Jews. And I'm still friends with them now. Joan of Judea, Persian Sabra, all these like wonderful activists that just weren't necessarily activists before this. It was just like our voices emerged because we saw what was happening and we started to try to be a voice. But Clubhouse became a cesspool of, we were literally talking to terrorists.
Yeah.
Literally like talking to terrorists. And I really saw the war coming. I'm haunted by the things that these people were telling me because some of the things that they told me came true October 7th. They were saying what they were going to do. And then they did it. So those things haunt me. But again, like, I feel like I was made for such a time as this. And this is the fight that I'm supposed to be in. Everything culminated to like, I'm supposed to use my humor. I'm supposed to use my voice. I'm the daughter of activists. I am an activist. And it's for this. It's for the Jewish people. And I've become more observant as like being Jewish. I've been lighting consistently Shabbat candles. I've learned I work for a nonprofit, a Chabad nonprofit. So I'm not Chabad, but I'm Chabad. I'm Chabad adjacent. I'm Chabad friendly.
I'm right there with you. Yes.
Yeah. So, and they're wonderful. And I've learned so much, and my job, we follow the Jewish calendar. So I've learned so much about like all the details that I didn't know growing up, kind of secular,
I'm not Chabad either, but since I moved to Florida, I've gone to a Chabad shul for 20 something years now, and just the most welcoming people. I have just only wonderful things to say about the Chabad community.
Same. So, hearts of gold.
Yeah. And all right. So you, again, some similar things with you. You changed, you evolved from earlier in your career when you might have maybe felt pressure to downplay. So what was it spark? Did it spark before October 7th? You said like you were seeing the chat rooms, or did October 7th say something to you like, I need to be more outspoken? Like I started this podcast because of October 7th. There too. So I felt like I had to do something. So what was it with you?
So it was exactly what I was saying. In May of 2021, I started doing Hasbara before I even knew what Hasbara meant.
Okay.
I realized in May of 2021, way before October 7th, that something was happening. Mm-hmm. I could feel Hamas under the feet. I could feel them. I could feel something was happening. And all those posts, all those free Palestine, all those being called a kike in the comments, I've had so many death threats, I can't even count at this point how many I've had. And that was since then. And obviously it ramped up after October 7th. But if you scroll through my posts, you can see I was posting up to correct the narrative since May of 2021.
So you said you saw the actual what was going to be done. I mean, people wrote that in comments.
When we were speaking on Clubhouse and people in comments, I know that I was speaking there were terrorists, actual like Hamas and Hezbollah terrorists that were talking on Clubhouse with us, that told me directly what they were going to do to Jewish women, to just disgusting things that I won't repeat, but things that they actually transpired on October 7th. They were saying horrible things, and And I just remember, like, even, you know, I work with special needs kids and their parents, and some of them are Israeli. And I remember having this very poignant conversation with one of the moms. And this was a year before October 7th. And she was saying to me, we know war is coming. We can feel it. We just don't know when. And so all those things that I was hearing online and all the horrible, like, comments I was getting. And then October 7th, it was like, basically, from my experience, it felt like seeing a train wreck in slow motion, and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
How does it hit you later that you saw all these comments and ahead of time, and then you saw October 7th play out? I mean, you mentioned earlier about, like, you know, knowing where you were that day. I'll never forget where I was that day, October 7th. So how does that hit you that these people told you, these animals told you what they was going to do, and then it happened, that you saw it play out?
It's earth shattering. There's nothing to describe the multiple mini deaths I've had inside my heart and my soul. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've gone through so many different changes of, like, not feeling safe to go outside.
Right.
Not going to any comedy shows, just being devastated, getting sick, getting really, really sick, and just purging all that. And so just being, just healing myself spiritually, physically has been my job this whole few years of just, like, and I'm just so thankful that I get to work with special needs kids, because they're so elevated, and they need my simcha. They need me to come and lift them up. And so I'm their art teacher. So through art therapy, through lifting them up, I've healed myself. They've healed me.
Good.
Chabad has healed me, working for Chabad.
That's fantastic. I see all these videos online also. You know, you see it with Seinfeld famously. Like, anytime they're performing, they get these idiots, like, heckling them about this. You get that still when you perform now?
I don't get hecklers so much. And even if I do, I know how to make it. Sometimes a heckler can make the show funnier because I'm the one with a microphone. So maybe the whole audience didn't hear what they said, so I can make it up what they said, you know? Or, so you don't want the audience to turn on you.
Right.
So you kind of have to, like, play with them at first. And comedy's not acting. It's stand-up is, you know, we're interacting. I'm not doing a monologue up here. If somebody says something, I'm going to acknowledge it. Sometimes it's just like, hey, I thought I told you to wait in the truck. You know, like, it's just things that you could say. When I was younger, when I was first starting out in comedy, I would let hecklers, I would fear hecklers. And now I kind of, like, I don't invite them, but I enjoy being able to turn anything that they say against themselves.
So, how do you think it is? We spoke a little bit about, you know, do you get support from other comedians at all? But you get, what role do you see now? How is it easier or more difficult for Jewish comics now in general?
Much more difficult.
No.
Much more difficult for if you want to do mainstream comedy. So I want to do as much mainstream comedy as I'm allowed to do, or who will invite me on their shows. And even, like, touring, I'm not sure where it's safe for me to be and where it is and where it isn't. So it's a risk anywhere I go. So, you know, I really found out who my friends are, what shows are friendly to me, and I stick with those places and those people.
Yeah, I see the same thing in the writing community. There's so many people, like, I'm not friends with anymore also, and I see, you know, children's book authors, like, come out, say the worst things about Jews. Like, you know, so it's just been very eye-opening in a lot of it. So before you came on, you know, you and I messaged briefly. I know you're involved, like, in organizations that, you know, do fight anti-Semitism. So how can people get involved with something like that? And where do you draw support from yourself now, besides Kabad?
Yeah, so I got affiliated with the Combat Antisemitism movement. I became an official Voices for Truth with the Combat Antisemitism. I was invited in 2024 to the first summit, and it was just the state of Israel saying, hey, we love you. Thank you so much for using your comedy, using your platform for Israel and for the Jewish people. We'd like to invite you to the summit. And then once I went to that summit, it was a lot of the people that I already interacted with online that I got to meet in person. So we started collaborating more. So now that's my community. And I just went back this year in May. They don't do it every year, but it was 2024 and then 2026. They had another summit, and it's like, gosh, I used to be like excited to meet celebrities, and now I don't care. Now it's like, I'm excited to meet these Jewish activists and non-Jewish activists that are allies. Those are some of my favorite people, because they don't have to do this, and their voice is even, I wouldn't say more important, but equally important to get out there. So they're some of my favorite people to collaborate with and to support. A lot of what I do on my page is I'm amplifying voices. So if I'm not always creating content as much, other people that are creating content, I'm reposting and I'm putting to my stories and amplifying. So I want to do more. I just have a job now, so I try to do it whenever I can.
I think what you said is just so important, to go to things like this, events like that, because it reinforces that you're not alone, that there are people that are going through the same thing, and they're also with you. We're all going through this together. And we can support each other.
Yes. And I see Hashem's hand in this. I really do. I really see the spiritual aspects of what's happening, because I do believe this has caused us to unite in such a way. Like, Ashkenazis aren't just hanging out with Ashkenazis, Sephardis, Mizrahis. Like, we're actually united for the first time ever. And I know that Chabad has done a lot of that kind of uniting. Like, where I work, there's every Jew. There's Persian Jews. There's Ashkenazi, Sephardi, Mizrahi. Everybody comes to this shul and this organization. So, but worldwide Jewry and the diaspora coming together to unite is precious and amazing. And I feel so genuinely proud to be Jewish and get to be part of such an incredible people. And I lay my life on the line for everyone.
I'm right there with you. I could not agree with you more. And it's one of the things I said, like, to me, it's always, if something happens to a Jew in Spain, or something happens to, a Jew in Algeria, or wherever, it's the same thing. It hits close to home. We're all one. And that's how I feel, sincerely with it. And by the way, if you want to follow recommendations about non-Jewish people to follow who are definitely allies, I'll recommend some to you. But
yes, absolutely. And vice versa.
Dumasani, Washington. I don't know if you follow. He's fantastic.
I've been following him since 2021. He's one of the people that we used to be in chat rooms on Clubhouse with. He's incredible. I love him, and his son, Joe Davi, who's an incredible musician. The Black Jewish Zionist Church is really an important voice, especially the Black and Jewish Alliance. That's something I very much care about. As I said before, my parents were civil rights activists. I very much care about the Black and Jewish. There are Black Jews, but also non-Jewish Black people who are Zionists, who are incredible voices. And I just want to nurture and love those people and support those voices and continue to nurture these relationships.
I agree 100%. Dumasani's been on this show, actually, and he's fantastic. So,
I got to watch that. Yeah.
No, that's great. He's great. I loved him. So before I do let you go, let's get back to you. And I got to hear about The Jew and the Sioux. I love the name. So tell me about that. How did that act come together? And what's the dynamic like on the road?
So the Jew and the Sioux is J.R. Redwater is the Sioux. I'm Dinah Leffert. I'm the Jew. And we met in a comedy show. And I remember, he's from the Lakota Nation, Native American. I remember he was like up on stage and somebody was heckling him and they said their name. And he said, if I wanted to know your name, I would name you. Like, I would give you an Indian name. I just thought it was so funny. And so I started getting him on all my shows that I was producing. I really wanted to champion his voice because you don't see a Native American voice so much in comedy, so on mainstream. So I was really trying to champion his voice. And then shortly after that is when the Standing Rock Sioux tribe was facing an existential threat with the pipeline. So we ended up going there to be water protectors. But along the way, we were doing shows in quote unquote Indian country. So like all these different casinos and powwows. And I've done comedy all through Indian country, like all these different powwows. We just did a show this year at the Standing Rock Sioux tribe show. And we're doing so the Standing Rock Sioux tribe it's from North Dakota to South Dakota, like across both states. So we did North Dakota at Prairie Nights Casino. And now we're going to do the powwow and hopefully this other casino that's on the south side coming up in August. So basically it's just like, he's my ex. So it's like we have a lot of water under the bridge. So we roast each other. It's hilarious. We roast each other, but we also talk about the things that are similar. And we kind of do like a trauma Olympics, or it's just like, my people, we were genocided, 6 million of us. And he's like, yeah, I got you trumped. They genocided 100 million of us and stole our continent. And so we do trauma Olympics, kind of like that. And then also I talk about the things of why natives and the Jews can really help each other, or it's like, you guys have a lot of broken treaties and we have a lot of lawyers. We should flip this. So it's kind of like, it's got a message. It's got like, two people that, are opposite, but so similar. And just, we're able to like talk about, what's happened to both our peoples, but also be a light for our people.
I hope you manage to get down to South Florida one of these days for the show.
We're working on it.
And last, I'll ask you about you mentioned again with Rosie Tran. So you host a show with her. So how does that show? Tell me about that show a little bit.
I actually don't host a show with her. She actually produced a comedy show that's streaming on Amazon Prime and now free on Tubi. It's called Rosie Tran Presents, and you can see my episode. It's episode 8, okay. The Wicked Women of Comedy.
I will have to take a look for that.
So yeah, she got signed to a global tour, and the people that signed her, they picked my episode, The Wicked Women of Comedy. So they want me to be part of the tour. So chances of being in Florida are pretty high.
Are increasing. That's great.
So we're working on that now. I guess the guy that's working, he's working on it. He has to sell it to the different venues, and then we'll get dates, and then I'll be able to start posting the dates. But right now he's still working on it. There was a setback, and now he's back at it. So I'm really excited about that. And yeah.
Dinah, I want to thank you for coming on. Seriously, a pleasure. I've been admiring your shows. I love what you do, and I do want to thank you for all that you for speaking up. I always thank people when they're speaking up, because to me, too many people are being quiet. And I was like, if you're not speaking up now, what the hell are you waiting for? So I do thank you for speaking up for that, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. My pleasure, treasure.
Let me sign us off. Again, been The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen. Again, a very special thanks to Dinah Leffert. Go follow her, and please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thanks for tuning in to The Jewish Lens, where all items used was strictly kosher.